Hello and welcome to today's presentation. My name is Miguel Fra. I am President and CTO of Falcon IT Services. We are a managed service provider here in Miami, Florida. And if you would like copies of today's presentation, please visit www.falconitservices.com. On the left side of your screen, of your browser, click on Learning Materials, and you can download PDF copies of today's presentation. Today's presentation is Hurricane and Weather Preparedness for your IT Infrastructure. And if you live here in South Florida, you know that South Florida has a lot of inclement weather, and obviously inclement weather is not good for your computer infrastructure. Hurricane are one of the types of problematic weather conditions that we have to deal with. Fortunately, we get advanced warnings of hurricanes, and we can prepare for them. One of the things that we can do is, obviously, if you live in South Florida and you've gone through this, you know that people sort of hunker down, wait for the hurricane to pass, and disconnecting your equipment from the electrical outlet is one of the best things that you could do. If you don't need to use it, or if you're shut down for any reason, having the equipment disconnected from the wall is a great idea. If you get a direct lightning strike during a hurricane or during a lightning storm, even if your computers are off, having it directly connected to the wall, a strong enough surge could get through there, bridge the electronics, and damage your equipment. Same thing for Ethernet cables, unplugging the Ethernet cables from your PC. That's a good idea, because a strong enough surge could travel through those cables and damage your equipment. Move equipment away from windows or from other points of failures, and place your equipment under your desk before you leave, and preferably on top of a sturdy box so that it's at least a couple of inches off the ground. This is due to the fact that if your roof leaks and you have flooding inside your office, your computer will be off the ground and it will prevent water from seeping into it. Having it under the desk will safeguard it from not only leaks on the roof, but also from falling debris. Sometimes pieces, if you get leaks, you have chunks of your drop ceiling that can fall down, and you don't want that damaging your equipment. Cover your equipment with a garbage bag. This will prevent leaks or water damage. And obviously make sure that it's unplugged from the wall. You do not want your equipment turning on while it is covered by a garbage bag and unable to breathe. This is certainly not good for the equipment, and it can also pose a fire hazard. Your network infrastructure, such as routers, switches, and other networking equipment, unplug those as well. You might want to place a waterproof tarp over your computer rack or your computer cabinet prior to leaving. And make sure that you are fully backed up, and that you keep a copy of backup off-site in case your building is severely damaged and you cannot recover your computer infrastructure. At least you'll have a copy of your data off-site so that you're able to rebuild your infrastructure with your data. Obviously, these are things that you could do prior to shutting your office down when waiting for a hurricane to come. Now, lightning, by contrast, is something that's very hard to prepare, because a lightning storm could roll in anytime during the day. You can't just shut down your business. But there are a few things that we can do to mitigate the effects of lightning. Now, sometimes people think that having a surge protector or a UPS will keep you safe, and this is not the case. A lot of times I've seen what people believe to be surge protectors, which are nothing more than power strips, and they believe that they are safe, but that's not really the case. And offline UPSs are also commonly used, and these provide absolutely no surge protection whatsoever, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Don't waste your money on the $5 surge protectors or the surge strips, because they're nothing more than power distribution where you could take one plug and you could plug 5 or 6 devices into it. That's all they are, and they have a 15 amp fuse, which is no different from having a circuit breaker. So these really don't offer you any type of voltage regulation. Voltage regulator start at $80, a real voltage regulator, and that's one good way of protecting your equipment from the type of power fluctuations that happen during lightning storms. If you're at home and you don't have to use your equipment and you're right in the midst of a lightning storm, it's a good idea to turn it off and unplug it from the wall. Now, lightning can travel through telephone cable, Ethernet cable, and coaxial cable to damage your equipment. So if you're in the middle of a long, drawn-out lightning storm, unplugging things, it's absolutely the best thing that you can do. Now, side flashes are similar to capillaries in your blood or tributaries in a river. As you can see in this photo, we have the main artery of what is the lightning strike, and that's what you usually see. But in this high contrast, you can see that the entire area of where the lightning strike is occurring is filled with these tiny little side flashes. So just having a lightning strike close to you, okay, you could still have equipment that is damaged by these side flashes. And these side flashes could come in and go through your house from one window to the next. So it's very dangerous, and it could greatly not only is it dangerous to people that are standing in the way, but it could be dangerous to computers and your cabling infrastructure, which usually runs in your above your drop ceilings. These side flashes could go through there and bring surges through your cabling systems. Now, lightning rods can greatly reduce direct lightning strikes. Okay, they're not 100% effective, but they sure do help out a lot. So if you're able to if you're at an area that receives a lot of lightning, open fields, things like that, if you have types of if you're running cabling, underground cabling to connect multiple buildings together, having lightning rods is an important factor in keeping your infrastructure safe. If you do use underground cabling to interconnect different buildings, using fiber optic or wireless bridges will help you keep your systems up and running. A relatively close lightning strike can affect buried or underground cable. It could damage the cable, and this is usually not the case. Fiber optic cable is usually impervious to the types of problems that copper cable can have due to voltage issues with lightning strikes. Now, during lightning storms, the power grid is going to be, having their own issues, and your electricity could fluctuate. It could go up and down. You could have surges, spikes, brownouts, blackouts, and having a good UPS is the best way to mitigate that. And obviously, on a personal note, please remember to stay away from windows and touching large grounded metal objects when there are lightning storms around. So to keep your infrastructure safe, make sure that your not just your PCs and servers, but your switches and all your other networking devices that keep your business running and your network going, that they are also protected by some type of a UPS with line interactive or surge protection capabilities. UPSs usually have a special plug for you to connect your printer, and this is because printers, when they're printing and they need to heat up their fuser, they draw a lot of electricity. So if you connect a printer to the battery port on a UPS, you could damage or severely drain the battery while the printer's printing. Use online UPSs to protect your servers, and on the next slide we're going to go into what an online UPS is. Don't overload your UPSs by plugging too many things onto them. There are UPSs which can monitor your electrical systems and send you alert notifications. If you can get one of these, that's great, because it'll give you a good heads up of what's happening in your electrical system. Always make sure that you hire a certified electrician and that you have the correct electrical cables, and that you don't overload your circuits. So this is probably one of the most important sections I'm going to talk about today, because I've seen this and this type of problem is pretty prevalent. There are three main types of UPSs. Now, a lot of people, when they purchase a UPS, whether for home or for business, they go directly to their local office supply store and they buy the UPSs that these types of office supply stores stock, which are usually the low-end UPS. Now, people will usually believe that by buying that, they are automatically protected. Most of the UPSs that you find at the office supply stores are what's called a standby UPS. And the standby UPS is really, the only thing that it does is it keeps your computer up and running when your electricity shuts off. It keeps your computer from abruptly shutting down. And don't get me wrong, it's good. It's better than nothing, but it does not provide you with the necessary voltage suppression and auto correction features that computers and especially servers require. A typical standby UPS will switch from AC to battery when your electricity goes off. And that's it. If you look at the electronics here on this slide, very simple. There's really not a lot going on here. Your electricity feeds your computer. When your electricity goes off, the UPS senses it and it switches over to battery and it keeps your computer going. That's all it does. Nothing more, nothing less. If your electricity spikes above the normal 115 volt limit, this UPS is not going to do anything about it. It's going to let that surge go right through. If your electricity experiences a brownout condition where the voltage drops below 115 but not enough to cause a total blackout, this is not good for computers, but again, this UPS will not do anything about it. Okay? So this only really offers you protection in the sense that it will prevent your computer or your server from abruptly shutting down. But it's not going to protect you from a surge, a spike, a brownout, or any type of other electrical anomaly that occur actually pretty frequently. You don't even have to be in the middle of a storm to have one of these conditions. Now, the better types of UPS, they're more expensive. They usually start at $400 to $500 and can range up to a couple $1,000s. And this is in contrast to the standby UPSs, which usually start at $50 or $60 and can, maybe I've seen them as high as $150, usually not more than that. Okay, so there's a big price difference between these two, and that's probably why your typical office supply store stocks the lower end units. Now, the line interactive UPS has voltage suppression and auto correction. If you look at the slide here and look at the electronics, okay, this is definitely a more complete, more complex type of UPS. It has these coils here which basically are going to regulate the electricity. So if your electricity spikes up past 115, this will suppress it, okay, and it's going to make sure that you always have a nice 115 volts going into your computer outlet, which is what computers like. And again, if your computer dips below that 115, it will auto correct it and make sure that you always get a very constant 115 volts. This is the type of UPS that you should have for your server. Actually, you should have this for your server and for your computers. But again, it's a matter of budget. If your budget doesn't permit it, you could probably get away with putting standby UPSs on your computers, but definitely you do not want to put a standby UPS on your server. Okay, so in American Power parlance, the standby UPSs are known as back UPS, and the line interactive UPSs are known as smart UPS. So if you see a back UPS, it's usually one of these. If you see a smart UPS, it's usually one of these. Now this is going to bring us to the third type of UPS, and this is probably the most expensive but the most secure of them all, and this is what's called an online UPS. The online UPS is a little bit different, and the difference is that the online UPS always runs from the battery. Okay, so there's no switching time. In the other two types of UPSs, your electricity is being fed from your wall outlet. When the electricity shuts down, the UPS will switch over to battery, and this has a minimal switching time of measured in milliseconds. Okay, but it still has switching time. So that means that your computer's without electricity for milliseconds. Can this affect it? Probably not. But definitely when you bring that switching time to zero, it's much better. The online UPS is usually found in very high-end computers such as transactional servers, database servers, things like that. And the way that it works is, again, in a typical UPS, you run, as you can see here in this slide, you run your AC power goes directly into your computer outlet. When the electricity shuts off, it switches over to battery, and then it feeds the computer. The online UPS goes directly from your AC outlet and is constantly charging the battery, and the battery is the one that's constantly feeding electricity to your computer. So there's never any switching time. So this is the best type of UPS that you can get. Unfortunately, this type of UPS is not very common because of the price. It's very expensive, but it's definitely the best type of protection you can get. So this concludes today's presentation. We hope you've enjoyed it, and if you would like more information, please feel free to visit us at www.falconitservices.com.